Howdy, folks. It's Tuesday, April 12th. I'm Jacob Cohen, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Later in today's episode, yesterday, President Biden announced regulations against ghost guns in an effort to curb gun violence. But what the heck are ghost guns? We are going to discuss. But before we get into that, as always, here are a few things you should know. Let's get crackling. All right, first things first. 15,000 Etsy sellers are going on strike and have signed a petition against Etsy's move to raise the commission it charges on each transaction from 5% to 6.5%. Now, let's be clear. Etsy has 5.3 million businesses selling items on its marketplace, so this isn't exactly a widespread movement, but it's still significant nonetheless and has gotten a lot of attention. Now, Etsy has been on an absolute tear. The pandemic was just fantastic for them. Sellers generated about $12.2 billion in sales for 90 million active buyers last year, up from $5 billion in 2019. But now, e-commerce is starting to cool off a bit, and Etsy needs to continue growing, make the shareholders happy, you know the deal. And to do so, they've implemented features that have pushed the platform closer to what Amazon feels like, according to some sellers, which is unlike the vibe the platform was founded on in 2005. Very much unlike it. If you were on Etsy back in the day, it was nothing like Amazon. For its part, Etsy says the new commission rates will help develop the marketing infrastructure and support sellers' need to keep growing themselves. So bottom line, if you ask us, Etsy appears to be experiencing some adolescent growing pains, figuring out who it really wants to be, doing some soul searching, if you will, and that is what we are seeing now, and it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. Moving on. The next thing we are following is the Ford F-150 Lightning. Basically, every year since 1981, the Ford F-150 pickup has outsold every car in America. That's an insane stat. The F-150 lineup is responsible for over $40 billion in annual revenue, and as a U.S.-built product, it comes only second to the iPhone in sales, according to Bloomberg. Now, with 200,000 reservations, the all-new battery-electric F-150 Lightning is expected to begin deliveries in the coming weeks, so this is a big season for Ford. So here's why this is significant. On the supply side of things, after CEO Jim Farley announced the truck in 2019, you had all the other legacy players kind of following in his footsteps. Now, these companies will be looking to the Lightning's launch as proof for whether or not an electric pickup can sell well. And on the demand side of things, if any car is going to get swaths of rural Americans to go green, it's probably going to be an electric F-150. The damn thing can plug into and power a house for 3 days, for goodness sake. Plus, factoring in subsidies, the lifetime cost for a Lightning is estimated to be around 17% less than its gas-powered sibling. So I'm just imagining these like real tough F-150 superfans thinking, ooh, an electric truck, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird. That's not the F-150. And then they see the price tag and they go, yeah, you know what? Sign me up. Sounds good. So we'll see how this goes. It's going to be a big couple months for Ford. All right, moving ahead. So there's this video that we've been watching that came out the other week that showed an autonomous vehicle from Cruise, one of the leading autonomous car brands, that showed one of its cars getting pulled over by the cops. There's no one driving the car, at least from within the car, and it was pulled over by the cops for failing to switch on its headlights. So, I mean, this is like straight out of an SNL skit, right? But basically, the policeman walks over to the car, tries to open the door. The car drives down the road a bit, pulls over again, turns on its hazards. It all ended up fine. No one got hurt or anything like that. Actually, Cruise has a dedicated phone number for San Francisco PD to reach them for situations like this. But the whole thing raised some really interesting questions and concerns. I recommend you go watch the video to see for yourself. But basically, people spend a lot of time thinking about what driving will be like in a world with autonomous cars. A lot of time is spent thinking about that. Not as much time is spent thinking about what policing autonomous cars will look like. And this event kind of shed light on that fact. Traffic stops are probably the most common interaction people have with police on a day-to-day basis. And as I was reading, as I discovered in TechCrunch, a law professor at UC Davis, Elizabeth Joe, has written some pretty interesting things, saying that, well, things like speed enforcement may be a thing of the past with programmable cars, right? You can program them not to go past a certain speed. You're still going to have people inside of cars. And that still means you're going to need policing of cars. And it means that police will perhaps need to seize a car, arrest people inside of a car, search a car. And interestingly enough, autonomous cars might actually encourage more crime inside cars because people won't be driving them, which is actually a pretty interesting thought. Bottom line, we have a lot to learn about autonomous cars outside of just figuring out if they can actually drive themselves. In other news, today the Bureau of Labor Statistics will issue its March update to the Consumer Price Index, CPI, a key tool that measures inflation. The White House said it expects inflation to be extraordinarily elevated, which is both unfortunate and completely unsurprising. And now, I believe it is time to talk about the Fed's crackdown on printed guns. So let's do it. All right, yesterday, President Biden announced regulations against ghost guns in an effort to curb gun violence. But though ghost guns kind of just sound like a cute haunted gun, they're really just DIY guns that are typically bought online via kits that buyers assemble at home like IKEA furniture, and some are even 3D printed. It's obviously a much smaller industry than the almost $20 billion U.S. gun and ammo manufacturing biz, but there's at least one key difference. Because they're sold unfinished, ghost gun kits aren't considered firearms and haven't required a serial number. And that's a problem. According to law enforcement and federal officials, ghost guns don't require background or age checks, meaning anyone with the means, basically a few $100, can get one. I just went on the internet a few minutes ago to see how easy it would be to get one of these. It took me maybe 10 seconds till I wound up on the Amazon, what seems like the Amazon of ghost guns, which I thought was pretty surprising. It surprised me. Now, they also don't have any serial numbers, which means they're virtually untraceable. The ATF could only trace about 1% of the 45,000 ghost gun reports it received between 2016 and 2021. And though most guns that law enforcement recovers during criminal investigations are regular guns, officials say ghost guns are on the rise. The ATF says 20,000 or so ghost guns were recovered in 2021, up tenfold from 2016. Now, these new regulations will classify the individual parts as firearms, meaning that ghost guns will be subject to the same laws as other guns, and also licensed dealers who buy ghost guns, like pawn shop owners, for example, must add serial numbers before reselling them. Now, you probably already knew this, but gun regulations in the U.S. are a contentious issue, you might say. So while regulations could certainly curb some behaviors, I'm sure there will be legal challenges here and just flat out stopping people from 3D printing whatever they want, such as a gun, if they so desire, might prove impossible. And bada bing, bada boom. That is it, folks. For more on The Hustle's tech and business coverage and links to all kinds of cool stuff from around the web, check out our newsletter at thehustle.co. Thanks to our editor, Robert Hartwig, and executive producer, Darren Clark. I'm Jacob Cohen. You've been listening to The Hustle Daily Show, brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. See you tomorrow.
Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late, since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.